We know that feeling, right? When you're tired, maybe a little bored, or just rolling out of bed. The yawn. It's one of the most common things we do. But what if I told you that simple, everyday act is actually one of biology's most fascinating and misunderstood mysteries? Well, let's dive into the surprising science behind it.
In fact, I'm going to bet that just by me talking about yawning, or you even seeing the word on the screen, you're starting to feel that urge right now. Go on, it's okay. It's almost like a reflex you can't fight, this involuntary command. And that powerful, contagious nature is our very first clue that there's a lot more going on here than just being sleepy.
And we do it all the time. The average person yawns somewhere between 6 and 23 times every single day. For a behavior that common, you'd think we'd have a pretty simple answer for why it happens. But honestly, for centuries, the real reason has been surprisingly hard to pin down.
So let's start by tackling the biggest myth out there. If you ask pretty much anyone why we yawn, they'll probably tell you it's to get more oxygen to the brain. And it sounds logical, right? But the science tells a very different story.
Researchers have really put this theory to the test. They ran controlled studies where they had people breathe air with less oxygen or more carbon dioxide. And the result? People didn't yawn any more than usual. They even looked at intense exercise, which, doubles your breathing rate to get more oxygen. And guess what? It doesn't make you yawn more. So yeah, the oxygen theory just doesn't hold water.
And here's the nail in the coffin. This quote explains it perfectly. A study in Frontiers in Evolutionary Neuroscience found that right after you take that big yawn, your breathing actually slows down for a moment. So any little bit of extra oxygen you might have grabbed is immediately canceled out. This was a huge finding that really forced scientists to look for a whole new explanation.
So if it's not about oxygen, what is it about? Well, today, the leading theory is all about temperature control. Basically, a yawn is like a built-in thermostat for our most important organ, the brain. Yeah, this analogy is just perfect. When your brain starts to heat up, getting a little warmer than its ideal temperature, a yawn kicks in to cool it down. That massive intake of air brings cooler, outside air into your sinuses, which helps lower the temperature of the blood that's flowing up to your brain. It's your body's own personal air conditioner. And we've got the data to prove it. Check this out. During a yawn, our heart rate actually jumps up significantly. It goes from a baseline of around 81 beats per minute to almost 93 at its peak. That surge pushes blood through your body faster, helping to quickly flush that warmer blood away from your head and replace it with the cooler blood coming from your lungs.
Okay, but brain cooling doesn't explain the weirdest thing about yawning, does it? Why is it so contagious? This is where the story takes a turn, moving away from pure physiology and into the incredible world of social neuroscience.
Contagious yawning isn't something we're born with. It only starts to show up in kids around age 4 or 5, which is right when they're starting to develop empathy. In fact, studies show you are way more likely to catch a yawn from a close friend or a family member than from a total stranger. The theory is that it's triggered by our mirror neurons, the brain cells that help us feel what other people are feeling. It's like a primitive, subconscious form of social bonding.
And more than half of us do it. About 55% of adults will yawn if they see someone else yawn. Researchers think that how easily you catch a yawn might actually be linked to how empathetic you are. So hey, if you're a contagious yawner, you might just be a super empathetic person.
Okay, so yawning is ancient, and it's all over the animal kingdom. But its purpose can be wildly different depending on who's doing it. For animals, a yawn is rarely just about being sleepy.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't mistake a crocodile's yawn for a friendly hello. When it opens that huge jaw, it's not tired. It's sending a very clear, very intimidating message. This is my territory, and these are my teeth. So, back off.
And then you have penguins, who are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They actually use yawning as part of their dating life. During courtship, one penguin will tilt its head back and stretch its beak wide open. It's not a sign of boredom. It's them trying to be romantic.
Now this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. A study in the journal Biology Letters found a direct link between how long an animal's yawn is and how big and complex its brain is. It's not about body size at all. It's about brain power, the number of neurons. A bigger, more complex brain means a longer yawn. So who are the undisputed champions of the long-haul yawn? We are. Look at this. A massive elephant or a hippo, their yawns only last a few seconds.
But humans, with our incredibly dense, neuron-packed brains, we average over 6 seconds. We have officially mastered the art of the long, dramatic yawn.
So let's bring this all back to us. While a yawn is almost always completely harmless, a big change in how often you're yawning can sometimes be your body's way of sending you an important message. Now, when we say excessive, we're talking about more than 3 yawns in 15 minutes when you're not tired. It can sometimes be a symptom of underlying health issues. Often, it's linked to sleep disorders that make you drowsy during the day, but it can also be a sign of neurological conditions like migraines or MS. And since we know yawning helps control temperature, it can also point to a problem with your body's internal thermostat. It can even, in some cases, be an early warning sign for a stroke.
So the next time you feel that deep, irresistible urge to open your mouth and yawn, just pause for a second and think about what's really happening. It's so much more than a sign of boredom. It's this incredible display of your body's own cooling system. It's a throwback to our deep social wiring, and it's a great reminder of just how much mystery is packed into our most simple, everyday behaviors.